All right, everyone, welcome to the very first episode of the What's the Story podcast, the podcast where I get real people. They tell their stories. You can learn a little bit. Maybe they'll learn a little bit from you and genuine people. So, my first guest today is a good friend of mine. He's a monk of 10 years. Rajan Shankara, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my friend.
It's great to have you. I'm very excited to hear your many wonderful stories of your very illustrious life, if you will.
Well, I'm honored to be the first person on What's the Story. I love it.
You have such an amazing story. I wanted to start out great. So we have met in person about a year ago,
Yeah.
actually. It was a year, right?
Yeah, that was fun.
It was
We picked
great.
you up from the train station, was it?
Yeah, we had never met before, only texting on WhatsApp. And this random guy is yelling my name in the street as I walk off the train. And he's trying to text me, and we're trying to figure out where each other are so we can go up to our cabin and meet the rest of our group. And yeah, that was the first time I had met you and Helena,
That's
and
awesome.
just getting into a stranger's car, and it all worked
That's
out. Don't get into strangers' cars. Just saying.
and driving hours and hours together and into the mountains.
Yeah, the isolated mountains, out of the city as everything fades.
Where no one can hear you.
That's right.
But it worked out well.
Except for the other people that are with strangers, they can.
That was awesome. We were at RJ is talking about a weekend retreat workshop that we were all part of, and I got a chance to teach some classes. We got a chance to do a meditation together. That was so much fun, man. I would love to do that again, and I definitely plan on doing things like that again in the future when those.
Had a little bit of connection issues there. We lost your audio for a second.
Oh, it happens.
It happens. But yeah, that was a great time. We got to meditate with you, I think, twice. Very early mornings as the sun was coming up. And we also did a very in-depth talk, just sitting in the woods, listening to nature, having
Oh
to
yeah.
experience what you have to tell us. So what you have to tell us is that you were a monk, and I know your past is kind of in your past. We're going to leave that behind, but I want to know about what led you to become a monk, how that life was. Was it difficult? Did you take a long time to adjust? I want to hear everything.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I guess it would begin just before that. Just I was kind of your average startup, 18-year-old entrepreneur. Very lucky to have met a friend when I was very young who grew up with me and always had the entrepreneurial spirit. And we told ourselves when we were kids, rollerblading in the street and hanging out in my mom's garage at 3 o'clock in the morning, me and him would just know that one day we were going to start a business. We didn't know what, but we knew we were going to do something to get out of. And so one day he just came up to me after high school. We had recently graduated, and he had been gone for like 2 weeks. And he came back from this little mini adventure and he said, "Hey, I got the perfect business. We're going to start an asphalt company." And so, long story short, we started this little company that seal coated. We started putting tar on people's driveways, something that happens in some states that doesn't happen all over. So if that doesn't happen for you, if you have a concrete driveway or whatever, if you have asphalt in certain climates, especially where it gets cold and hot and it changes weather throughout the year, people put blacktop on that asphalt so it lasts longer.
Makes sense.
We made a lucrative business out of it. It was awesome. At our peak, I think, season, The next year, we were making up to $3,000 on a good day.
That's very good.
So for some reason, I got introduced to the book Autobiography of a Yogi at the same time that I was getting depressed. We were making all this money. The business was going great. We had this little apartment. We had moved out. We banded together. We were living life. We were a team, but it was miserable psychologically. It was as if money didn't make you happy.
Right.
And it's true, right? But we didn't know that. We didn't know that. We thought that, once you made enough money to thrive and you'd have a happy life. Like lots of money equals, and then the rest is history. But it's actually not the case. And 19-year-old me was excessively drinking anytime I could and just causing a ruckus. And, I'm coming off of a background as a former drug dealer. So this life, it just didn't provide any sense of fulfillment like I thought I would. And my friend felt the same way. My good friend, Tony, was getting out of the business. He was unhappy. He kind of moved away, and I was running it by myself. And before he ended up doing that, he gave me Autobiography of a Yogi. He said, I think this book will help us on our journey, no matter where our journey goes. I read the book, and the book is about a monk. And I finished the book over a period of about I need to work. So I just read all day, every day. And in the asphalt business, when the sun isn't out, you aren't working. You're waiting for the sun to come back out. Because if it's going to rain, it's going to ruin your work. So there I was. I finished the book, and I'm pretty much, there's something inside of me like growing like a seed into a plant, and then from a plant to a tree. And I knew that I was supposed to go off into the jungle and become a monk after I finished this book. It's weird because most people that I've talked to and who've read the book, they just close the book and start another book. It doesn't have this kind of profound impact, but this book did. So I told my family, I said, I'm pretty get rid of my company. I'm going to get rid of my company, and I'm going to move to the jungle, and that's it. I probably won't ever see you again. And my sisters were like, okay, we get it. You're 19 years old, 20 years old. That's what we did when you were at your age. Good luck. My mom was like, yeah, good luck. Makes sense. My dad made me a deal. My dad said, I'll tell you what, if you come to New Orleans with me and help me clean up after Hurricane Katrina for a week, I'll buy your plane ticket to the jungle. And I was like, solid. I got it. I'll do it. He'd been trying to get me to go to New Orleans ever since Hurricane Katrina hit the 9th Ward in Louisiana. And I kept saying no, because I was a jerk. I was a monster. And so I ended up going with him. It was an amazing experience. And sure enough, his end of the deal, he went through with it. He bought me a plane ticket. Now, my sister helped me determine where to go, which was Hawaii, because she had lived on the island of Kauai before, the smallest of the Hawaiian Islands, the smallest of the public Hawaiian Islands. Ni'iau is the smallest, but you can't go there. And she said, if you're going to go off into the jungle, you should go to Hawaii. And if you're going to go to Hawaii, you should go to Kauai. I'll go with you. And I will help you train in the jungle how to survive, because I survived out in the wild before. And I said, okay, this is working out pretty good. And what's funny is you and I are talking about this now, but I didn't think about this at all when it was going on. I was just like, whatever. Okay, fine, great. My sister sends me a text message that says, I'll go with you. I'll spend a month there with you,
You're
and
gonna
then
get
I'll
help
leave.
along the way.
Yeah. And I was next. But as I talk about this more and more, now that I've been out of the monastery for 2 years, um, it's a baffling idea to just get rid of everything and go move to the jungle at the age of 19. And sure enough, that's what we did. Our plane, date was coming, and we went to the airport. I said bye to all my friends. We had a party the night before I left. Um, I was pretty much hungover the last time I talked to my dad, and we landed on the island of Kauai in Lahui Airport. I got off the plane. I could feel the humidity, this thick blanket of humidity in the air, and it hit my skin. And I was like, I love this place.
Where were you
There's
coming
just
from?
Chicago, Indiana area.
Oh, big difference. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. Midwest, and there's the ocean, which I had never seen, and chickens walking around, and tropical trees, and the tropics are quite stunning the first time you see them. And I just knew that this was like the best thing I could have done for myself, and I didn't care about what was going on. If you're wondering what happens to someone's brain at that moment, are they worried? Are they thinking about the future? And it's like, no, I wasn't thinking about anything. I wasn't even thinking about what we were going to eat that day. I wasn't thinking about anything. I had no concerns in the world. I was just high on life. I was on this new path, and I was going to master meditation like this monk in the book I read. And for 1 month, we scoured the island. We went up, we lived on the outskirts. We usually stayed in a place for 3 days and then moved on. We had backpacks, a tent, and I don't even think I had a pillow. I used my backpack as a pillow and a sweatshirt as a blanket. We had trail mix, and I think I had $75 in my pocket. Uh, we spent a few days, I remember, eating at a Salvation Army, and then Islanders actually took us out after we made friends. After a few weeks, Islanders took care of us and would give us food and stuff. So I was homeless, and it was one of the greatest times of my life. I was ready to just master myself, my mind, meditation, everything that a yogi and a kind of sage is supposed to do. So every day I would meditate for hours. I would chant. I would talk philosophy with my sister. We would read books in our tent. In the mornings, the monk seals would come up and digest their food on the shores of these private beaches. And we were alone and on an island, and life was essentially perfect. The time came for my sister to start thinking about getting closer to the airport because her month was coming to an end. And about a week before that, we started to talk about how that would happen and what's to happen to me. And things were going so good. I had a machete. I had an axe. I had a good solid tent. I was pretty much set, and I was like, I picked out a spot on the island where we were in the beginning, and I said, I'm going to actually go back there and live there. And here I am, ready to do this. And my sister says she remembers me talking about a monastery a little bit before we left the island, and she said, I know you researched a monastery on the island. I would feel more comfortable if you went and talked to them and see if you could stay there for a few weeks after I leave. Maybe just get settled a little bit, and then come back out to the wild. Because at this point, we're all out of resources. I don't have anything. And she's probably worried about my survival skills. So she did most of the gathering. She got bananas for us. She got coconuts. She taught me how to get coconuts, but she was the one, enjoying the moment. She was doing all the work. And so I said, okay, it was in the back of my mind the whole time. My friend told me there was a monastery there. These guys did yoga. They meditated. So maybe I should go check that out. That was in the way back of my mind. So now my sister brings it up and I go, okay, well, I'll think about it. And I think the next day, she went to town. She would go to the library occasionally because she lived there before. So she was like, she was back pretty much at one of her old stomping grounds, and she would go back and forth to the library in Kapa'a, I think we were at the time. Yeah, we were at Salt Pond Beach Park, or I forgot where that was. I don't think that maybe that's Kapa'a. Residents of Kauai can correct me on that. And wherever the Salt Pond Beach Park was, that's where we were. And she came back from the library one day and said, hey, I got this book on meditation. I think you may be interested. So I read through the book. It was like a little pocket book, and it was amazing. It was all about karma and reincarnation, meditation, living the life of a yogi. And I was like, damn, where did you get this book? She's like, I just saw it at the library. I thought I'd get it for you. And I go to the back. I turned to the back of the book when I finished, and I said, it was a picture of the founder of the monastery. And I was like, this is the guy that started the monastery. And she's like, oh, great, And total synchronicity for me. Probably the first biggest synchronicity connecting me to the monastery that I could see directly.
It's amazing that she just picked a book from the library and it was just what exactly you needed.
I know, right? It's so wild. And the synchronicities in my life haven't stopped since. It's like, what, almost 14 years later since that day. And I said, okay, all right, I'll go check this place out. This is enough for me. I gave him a call and I said, hey, what do you guys take people in? I want to train. I want to learn meditation. What do I got to do? And the monk I was talking to said, when are you coming to the island to stay? And I said, I'm already here. I'm on the opposite side of the island from you. And I live in the wilderness and I renounce the world. I gave everything up to study meditation. And he said, well, let's go one step at a time here. Come on a tour. He gave me the date for the next tour day. He said, come see the monastery, check it out with the tour group. And after the tour, tell the monks that you want to talk to me. And he gave me his name. And I said, great. I have a tour day. And one of the friends my sister had met, his name was Joe. They call him Joe the Monk, actually, kind of funny. He would hang out with us occasionally and drive us around the island. He said he would take me up there. And one day he did pick me up. We went to the tour in the monastery. He waited in the parking lot. And I went on tour. It was a beautiful place. And then I asked for the monk when I was done. I did as he asked. So the monk grabs the other monk and he comes out.
I'm still listening. Someone was yelling to me. Don't worry, we didn't get it.
All right. So the monk comes out and we talk, and he's like, so what do you want again? And I said, well, I want to train. I want to learn meditation. I want to master meditation. I want to master this art, Raja Yoga. I want to learn everything about it. And I want to be like this monk that I read about. And he said, like, you can just show up here and we would just take you in. It doesn't work like that. You have to get to know who we are. You have to study our material. And you don't even know what it's like to live in a monastery. And I said, I know that I'm never, going to leave this place. I absolutely feel connected to this place. And he said, okay, well, I recommend you go home, fly back to Chicago, and get a job. And when you get more settled. And I said, okay, well, I'm not going to go back home. I live in the jungle. I figured you wouldn't take me in, so I'm going to go back to the jungle. And he said, have a nice life.
Did they think you were too young and experienced? They wanted you to have more life experience?
No, the literal policy of the monastery is we don't take in homeless people. That
Oh,
they literally don't take in just people that walk. There's a long entrance process.
okay.
And I had no idea, who knows. And I just thought I would go and check it out. So sure enough, it didn't work. And I said, yeah, I kind of figured as much. Went back to the parking lot. Joe Monk was there waiting for me. And he said, how did it go? And I said, oh, it's a beautiful place, but they're not going to take me. And he said, that's all right. It's their loss.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
And he was wrong. Yeah. He took me back to my campsite. And I did what any lost, homeless 19-year-old would do. I called my mom and I said, hey, Rose is leaving next week. I went to the monastery. It didn't work out. Looks like I'm going to be in the jungle and have a nice life. And she said, wait, I think you should go back. And I think and you should go back every day. And they're trying to see how quickly you give up, basically.
They want to see your perseverance and persistence. Persistence. There we
Yeah.
go.
I mean, really, that wasn't the case. But when she told me, I was like, okay, I'll go back. I don't know how I'm going to go back. I live on the other side of the island. Jodo Monk isn't going to be able to drive me every day. They are open every day from 9 to noon. So my sister returns back to the campsite, and I'm there just waiting in the tent, and I'm reading a book. Or no, I was talking to two individuals about a book I was reading. I think I was reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And we were talking about life and synchronicity and I don't know. We were talking about just mystical stuff. These were two amazing people that we met on the beach. And she came back to the campsite and said that she's like, hey, grab your stuff. We are moving for this last week. We're going to stay with my friend that I just met, and she's going to house us for the last week where I'm here, and I want you to come with me. And I said, well, I'm going to live out here. I don't need to go live with her and hang out for a week. You go ahead, and we'll just say our goodbyes now. And she said, well, I want you to come with me for my last week. I don't want to leave you now. And I said, okay, fine. Where is it? And she said, she lives down the street from the monastery on the other side of the island. And I said, okay, synchronicity number 2. Great, let's do that. So I grabbed my stuff and we were off. So this woman took us in for that week and let me borrow her bike, and I rode my bike every morning to the monastery. Like my mom said, stay there from 9 to noon every morning, and read books in the temple and meditate and listen to their ceremonies and everything. And the woman had 2 kids. Her name was Chandra, which is actually a Hindu name. I believe it means moon. And go figure, synchronicity number 3. She had 2 wonderful kids, and I would take them to get ice cream, and we would just all hang out. And it was a pretty. And after a few days, one of the monks came up to me and said that I should start reading a part of a book of theirs. So he gave me an assignment to do, basically, and I was pumped about that. And I was going back every day and reading that. And then one of the younger monks eventually came out, and this is Satyanada, who's out of the monastery now. He's a big meditation on my podcast. He is one of the first monks I met. And he said, one of the older senior monks wants to have tea with you. So I said, okay, cool.
Steps in the right direction.
Right. Like, they want to see me now. And I go and I go into their office. The Satyananda leads me into the office and introduces me to the senior monk, flowing beard. He's wearing these beautiful orange robes and a typical monk look. And he has me take a seat, and he serves, Satyananda serves us some green tea. And the monk says, after he starts talking about the glories of green tea, he said, so what do you want? I believe we told you to go away. And I said, well, I'm serious about this path. I want to master meditation and the mind. And I want I can stay here or not, it doesn't matter. I'm going to live in the jungle and do it. And he asked me some more questions, and I asked him questions. And after our meeting, I finished the tea. He said, I want you to come back every day and have tea with me at this same time. First go to the temple, do your meditation, and at 10:30, come here and we'll have tea together. And I was like floored. I was like, yeah, you bet. Okay. I wasn't really that interested in the monastery. And then, I'm starting to realize that, I might get in. So now my interest kind of peaks. Mm. I go back to the house that we're at. I think Rose is leaving the next day now. And basically, I call my mom and I'm like, all right, I went back every day for a few days. They actually invited me to tea. They want me to come back every day. And she said, good. All right, here's what you do now. What you do is you tell them you want, and she said, you make their mission your mission and stop thinking about yourself.
Okay.
And I said, okay, you got it. I'm gonna do exactly what you said, Ma. It's worked so far. And I went back the next day and we had an awesome meeting. I asked him all these cool mystical questions and everything that I read out of the book, Autobiography of Yogi. And of course, that was one of his favorite books. And he said, is there anything else before you leave? And I said, I want to work. I want to stay after our meeting. I'd like to work and help you with your mission more. And he kind of laughed and he ran his hands down his beard and like spun around in his chair. And he said, every day after our tea, you can go out into the forest there outside of my office. And there's a big banyan tree there. It's beautiful. And that you can pick up the sticks and put them in a pile on one side. And when all the sticks are off the forest floor in that pile, you can go to that pile and start moving that pile to the other side and put the sticks on the other side. And I said, all right. You got it. And I did, man. I picked up all of those sticks and I put them on one side. And when I was finished, I would take that pile of sticks and I would start putting them on the other side. And about an hour, I did that for about an hour every day, and someone would come out and tell me to go away. And it was awesome. It was, but I didn't really think about it then. I was just going through what he said. I was just thinking about, like, it's my first assignment. It's my first thing to do. Um, Rose had left, and I was living at this lady's house, kind of in this waiting period. And she said, as my sister was leaving, she said, "You can stay here for as long as this takes. You get in the monastery if you're waiting, or if you're just waiting to get in the back to the jungle, you can stay here. We're all good. We have plenty of space." I was on the couch, but it was a cool second floor kind of house in this beautiful paradisical land. And so I'm going back every day for about a week. I'm doing my discipline there in the forest after our tea. And we talk about living life as a monk during our meetings, and it was just really amazing. It was like out of a movie. And on one of the days, the monk who told me to leave after the tour day, that monk came back out and said, "We'd like to take your picture, and we'd like to give it to the guru and show him what you look like." And I said, "Okay." I took my picture. I had a big smiling face and everything. I had a shaved head. And the next day, I was picking up the sticks, and that same monk came out and said, "The guru has accepted you for training, and you may stay here and train for 6 months in
Wow.
our training program." And I was like, "All right, let's do this."
You're in.
I was in, and it was, the timing was perfect. Satyanada was in the training house a few days before, and they freed up a space in the house that was at maximum occupancy for the cadets. And I was number 5, and I moved in a few days later. Chandran, the woman who was letting me stay at her house, she took me out to dinner my last night. We went out to this awesome reggae bar on the beach, and it was like my going away time. And months of training turned into 12 years of being a monk.
12 years. I'm sorry. I said 10 in the beginning. It's 12. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
That's an amazing story. Like, how many other people? I know I've never met anybody that just wants to literally upheave their lives and move to somewhere remote and just be someone they never thought they'd be and just better themselves.
Yeah, and it wasn't planned. It wasn't orchestrated. I didn't know about planning back then. I was so young. I didn't understand being organized and thinking ahead. I was totally in the moment. I was like the moment to moment to moment. And now I'm a little older. I don't really think like that as much. I do make plans. I do set things in motion, but I try to set things in motion and then let it be. And I think that's one of the greatest things I've ever learned is that you can't, you can plan as much as you want, but you can't force everything that you plan. You can't force the outcome. You can only put your energy out there and then wait for the boomerang of energy to come back to you, and then you act. But how that all happens is a very mysterious process.
Something that you, like you said, you can't control, you can't push. It's just you have to let it happen.
Yeah.
It's like trying to have someone that maybe you like and you're pushing on them and pushing on them, and the more you push on them, the further they get away. You
Yeah,
want them in
exactly.
your life,
Exactly.
and you're just trying too hard.
Yeah, if you try to force timing in the universe, it will have this negative positive battery effect, and it will repel instead of attract. And it's it's like a pushing on a cow's head. The harder you push to push it away, the harder that cow is going to push back to you and try to knock you over. And I've actually experienced that because we had like 5 cows in the monastery.
I've seen you recently on your Instagram post pictures of you when you're farming, and how learning to grow vegetables and plants has helped you along your journey as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. For the first 7 years, the monks had me learn farming, landscaping, construction, mechanical work, um, plumbing, electricity, welding, painting, grinding metal, carpentry, in order to um, kind of get grounded and to, they were kind of like, the process is to build you up. They break you down into this open vessel, and then they start adding in all the structure that a house needs to be strong, and these foundational concepts of working with a team, working with people. And that was very hard for me to harmoniously work with people. I had never done that. I was an ass. I was a terrible student. I was a loner, borderline sociopathic loser that just wanted to make money, hurt people, and sell drugs. And I thought that the more people you could hurt, the more fearful they would be of you, that the better you were doing in life.
The more power you had.
More power, yeah. And I was this Tupac obsessed, you know, just uh, young that didn't know anything about anything. And so they had to root that out. They had to break that part of me apart. And I had to use all these techniques that I try to teach people today, that would go into my mind and expose it. And like literally the process of revealing who you are is like opening up your skin and showing the insides of you, and everyone can kind of see who you really are, so that it sort of restructures you, and you have a new skin, and you can't hide from anything at that point. And I, for 2 years, I struggled with working with the other monks in a team, and they were patient. Um, they were very they were used to this kind of mentality. I used to think it was American youth, but it's not the case. It's actually youth in general. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, um, whether you're Singaporean or Indian or Chinese. You have a bit of an arrogance to them. It just comes with the inability or the inexperience of self exploration in the world, in this um, positive light, because I've been seeing the world as a negative thing up until this point. And for me, I guess self-realization or enlightenment or the path of meditation was to push as hard as I could and force this thing to happen. And I'm going to master my mind. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to somehow destroy it. It's the opposite is true. To attain self-mastery, we have to completely let go and surrender, and let ourselves be destroyed by whatever's coming, and to not fight back. And that openness and that surrendering act actually makes you much more powerful than any kind of force. Very
Quite,
strange.
it's quite amazing. That I know I've been in that position before where I just don't want to deal with anybody and I just want to be by myself and I think I could take care of everything on my own. And that's not the case. I need to go and talk to my sister or my best friend or just somebody for advice or for help me with something. You need that teamwork in your life.
Yeah, and all the young people listening to this, and even the people at work, your bosses, your coworkers, even if you're in a seniority position and there's people underneath you working for you, um, has the ability to work towards a mission. And if you respect your senior and you respect your subordinate and the people underneath you, that all the same, you will make it very far in life on that alone, that philosophy alone. And it's the narcissistic tendency to push people away and to think that you can solve everything by yourself that makes people not have the ability to stand you. You become a pill, and a very animal to train. And it's funny because I use that metaphor because one of the monks told me when I was younger. He said, "You're like a wild horse that can't be trained, and no one here, you know, can fight you. You're stronger than everyone else, and it's not working." And after a few years, it clicked. I started to study. Thank God to my senior of the department at the time, who introduced me to Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I started to find Stoicism, the works of Marcus Aurelius, and Socrates a few years later. Um, and slowly, I started to become a mature individual.
Just moving positions here. Um, so other than working with the monks as a difficulty, what else was another thing? Well, let me do this in series. You had a phone and you had all the technology and everything. What was it like getting rid of all that? Like, was it a hard thing to switch over to, just not having anything at all?
Well, we used computers in the monastery. We used phones, um, but you're correct because for the first 2 years you don't have your own things. You never have anything. You never own anything. But the monastery doesn't give you your own computer and phone to work with for about 2 years, I think. So if I remember correctly, and yes, before well. Let me put it this way. So I'm a very old man, right? So I can kind of speak to all the young people out
Old
there.
man, he says. Don't look a day over 30.
So nowadays, social media and everything is just normal. But back then, I'm coming off of a generation that I'm the tail end of millennials that I graduated high school in 2004, and Facebook was not really a thing yet. Facebook didn't get popular. It didn't spike in usage till 2008. um, I think people had MySpace in 2002 to 2003, 2004. I never used that stuff. I wasn't really into that. I had a phone. My friends had a beeper. We were skateboarders. Like, we were outside every day, so we weren't really worried about technology. And so I came into the monastery without knowing what Instagram was. Instagram wasn't big until it wasn't out until 2007, I want to say. Um, yeah, Tumblr, I think, was 2000. Twitter was 2006. Uh, Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram. We're going into 2007, 2008, 2011. Snapchat, I think. So again, none of this stuff was out as I went to the monastery end of 2006. So um, I wasn't having to detox from technology. However, I enjoyed the fact that I was free in this jungle monastery as a sort of rogue civilian on this path. And I did detox from music, though. Music was a huge part of my life. And I remember distinctly as the months and years went on, and I wasn't allowed to listen to music, and I wasn't involved with the world anymore. Music that I had listened to over the course of my life started to come out of my brain, um, methodically, one by one. Each piece of music that I had memorized started to come outside of me like boiling water, and it was overflowing. And one day it would be a song, and all of a sudden a song would come up, and I'd say, oh God, I remember that song. I love that song. And it would be in my head all day, and it would just come out, and I'd enjoy it. And then it was gone, and it didn't come back. And a lot of the media that I consumed from the internet, um, that came out. I remember, um, even pornography that I saw when I was younger. It was coming out of my mind, and I was this detox process would see it. I would see it come through, and then it was gone.
Hmm.
It wouldn't come back.
It
And
was
and
like a final goodbye, and then it was gone.
oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was a beautiful experience, and and I realized that was what purification was. And, it's just working with soil, working with plants, working with humans, working with other humans, building things, crafting things with your hands. That was an extremely purifying experience that I was being brought through, basically, by my mentors and department leaders. So that was a beautiful experience. I imagine if I had to detox from social media, if I had to, kind of re-purify myself, which everyone should, right? Like at least maybe once a month or once a quarter, we should kind of just set everything down and go outside and stay away from all that stuff. Um, I imagine it would take a few weeks, and that those things would start to come out and then be gone. But I've noticed, and I've often thought about this, I'm sure you have too, RJ, that, um, I it, the it, I don't think that technology is dangerous to a certain degree. I'm not against technology. I'm pro technology. I'm pro, certain degrees of social media. I'm pro internet. Obviously, I'm pro SpaceX. Like, all these things that are going on are amazing, and it's an amazing time to be alive. If we use technology the right way, in moderation, with a balance, with wisdom and intellect, we can use it to further advance ourselves. But it can go overboard. I think it can be too much. It can be a double-edged sword if we're not careful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've found myself quite a lot of times just sitting in like the lounge chair in the living room, just scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or whatever I'm using that day, and I find myself and I catch it, and I'm like, what am I doing right now? Like,
Yeah,
why am I doing this? Why can't I go and do something else, help somebody, or do what I like doing this right now, like talking to somebody who can teach me things, and I just scrolling through the Instagram, scrolling through this and scrolling through that, and you're not doing anything. You're
yeah,
not
yeah. You're
learning
not.
anything.
Yeah, and if you think about that data that's just coming through from your eyes to the brain, deep down in there, creating synapses, and it's just, there's got to be a limitation. And so what neuro scientists have realized is that, and behavioral psychologists have studied, is that no more than 2 hours a day total screen time. All right, unless it's educational, unless it's intellectual based. If it's just scrolling, if it's just TikTok, however long TikTok's going to be around for, if it's just um, if it's just mindlessness, then you got to limit that. You got to limit it. It's okay to a certain degree. I have been known to like laugh hysterically with TikTok videos. I mean, I swear I've seen some of the funniest shit on TikTok. I swear it's hilarious. But after a few videos, maybe five, you got to put it away. You got to put it down. And now I'm guilty with Twitter because I'll find myself scrolling through a feed and I won't stop until I catch up to where I ended off. And I think that the balance for me with Twitter is it's like a newspaper. It needs to be treated like a newspaper. Back in the day, we only had the newspaper once a day. We only had news and new information once a day. And it was slow enough to where we could take it in, digest it in the morning, talk about it throughout the day. Next day, there was a new piece of news. Today, there's news every second around the world, and it's being brought to you, and that's insane. It's coming out so fast that the editors of and the writers at Vox are even saying that it comes so fast, we don't even have time to edit it. We don't even have time to fact check it. We put it out there and pray for the best. And it's like, that's insanity. So
Right.
that's a bit of a rant there, but you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I find myself, and I've asked this to my other friends, I'm like, when you get on TikTok, how many videos do you watch? And they're like, well, I don't know. I watch one and then two, and then an hour and a half has gone by, and I have no idea what I've watched, what I've seen. I've shared many things. I don't know what I've shared. And I wouldn't say an addiction, but you do get hooked in until you realize, wait, what time is it? Oh, it's 3 in the morning. I need to go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now that technology and global connectivity on an instant level is here,
Mm.
and it's just getting faster and better, we have to now learn the art of balance with it. And it's normal, I think, with every new technology, with every new thing, there has to be we have to be inundated with it in order to fully learn it and understand it. And when we then see the dark sides of it, like we go through the new thing, and then when we get to the end, we say, okay, let's back up, let's see where this was useful and where it was destructive, and let's just stick with the useful part. And so there's casualties there, right? There's the people that got stuck in it, that saw the dark side of it. But with everything, there's going to be casualties, and we use critical thinking to refine this new thing and of global connectivity. And I guess that's what I'm doing now. I mean, I went through the 12-year process. I Coming out, I adjusted to the world. It was one of the hardest things. I was talking to a student this morning, actually, I think he's in another part of the world. I think he's in Poland. Um, Przemek, if you're listening to this, I'm talking about our conversation this morning. Basically, he said, he asked me what was the hardest thing that you had to adjust to when I got out. And as a monk, I was never alone. Actually, when we left the monastery, we left in pairs. So if we had to go to town, another monk would come with you. When you're driving, there's always another monk there. Um, when you go traveling, always with another monk. So you always have that team mentality, and to make sure, and it also was to make sure everything went good with the monk, and that they didn't run off with another hot chick, or with a hot chick, and
Temptation.
exactly, to protect you, and it worked essentially. And one of the hardest things I had to adjust to when I got out was I didn't have that other monk with me. When I got my apartment, about 20 days later, I went and visited family for 16 days when I got out, and then I went to Colorado. So I went from Texas to Colorado, and I had an apartment. After about 4 or 5 days of sleeping on a friend's couch, I had enough money from running my business to get my apartment and everything. And it was a bit of PTSD. Like, it was a bit of shock. I would, I'd have to go to the store and get food, and I had never done that. I hadn't done that in the last 12 years by myself. So leaving my apartment by myself and driving someplace by myself, that was weird. That was very strange. And I couldn't really do it without anxiety. And I would tell my friend who lived down the street, I'm going to go out, I'm going to go to the store. And he'd be like, all right, man, good luck. Like, best of luck to you. I know you can do it. Um, I didn't realize it at the time, but now that I'm thinking about it, it was definitely I was institutionalized, and that was one of the toughest things to kind of get over and adjust to for sure.
Now, when most people hear the traditional meaning, or hear someone say, "Oh, they were a monk," or you see it on TV, the monk, you don't ever think of them having technology or driving anywhere or anything like that. Um, Sorry, dogs are going outside. So what kinds of technology did you you had internet, obviously, and you drove
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yep.
So that it wasn't necessarily getting used to not having anything at all, like you're just living in the jungle with nothing. You had some stuff. When you went on the internet, what were you looking? Were you weren't on social media? You were like reading and like doing like learning stuff.
Right. Yeah, so the monks were definitely advanced in technology. We always had the best technology because they are an international organization. They disseminate their teachings, they spread their teachings via digital means. They write books, they publish books. I got a chance to spend 5 years on the writing and publishing team in the media department. So we would work on our website. We had like 3 websites. I had to manage some of the websites and write the back end for them and manage with the CMS. And um, we had to manage teams around the world with the work that we did. So it's a massive organization. It takes a big team, and technology is a huge part of that. So I wasn't dropping off the grid. I was just dropping off the mindlessness grid. And I was attending a university that was also a theological seminary that taught me mindfulness, self mastery, philosophy, and a host of other things. And what we used the internet for was, depending on what department you're in. The accounting department had to use the internet and connectivity for accounting purposes, um, and the project that they were involved in. The kitchen department, the cooks had to get recipes. The media department had to manage web code and interact with thousands of other people around the world, look up the latest articles and news stories for the Hindu magazine that we produce. They have a print run of about 1,500 international uh, readers. So, you know, I was, for example, I was part of one of the small departments that managed the quick bites of news in one of the sections, and it was all religious news, but you had to go across the internet to kind of see what was going on, to write about or communicate with your writers to edit their work. The landscaping and mechanics department and construction used an internet-based mechanic order system for the monastery, so that someone from another department could say, "There's a broken sink in building 5," and you have to navigate through that world in order to fill out the work order, answer it, make the mechanical adjustment, and then come back and fill out the paperwork. So it's a full-on running organization with meditation and mindfulness and Hinduism in the background as the foundation of it. We as individual monks could not use social media. We didn't have Facebook accounts. We didn't have social media accounts at all. We weren't allowed to tweet. Before I left, a few years before I left, one of the younger monks, actually got the senior monks to let the monastery have a Twitter account and a Instagram account. And that was a new thing. That was like, whoa, are you sure? Should we do this? Is that the world we want to get into? And sure enough, it worked out fine. It's a cool little monastery Instagram channel. And it's never going to be a massive worldwide, like world known organization. It's in a small corner of the world, but they don't want their reach to go that far. They don't want to be well known. They already have like over 100 people visiting every day, or did pre-COVID, and
Right.
they don't they don't want to grow beyond that. But essentially, the the footprint in the digital world is quite small because of that, and it's from a monk perspective, it's quite nice.
That is very nice. So what brought you to the decision to leave?
Right. That's funny. I was also talking about that this morning. So I noticed that I had become a different person. Um, I had changed to a substantial degree, and I was more complete than I had ever been. Over the years, I had been promoted several times, and I had advanced to a pretty respectable level and was expected to go as far as I can go. Um, but I noticed that this new person of me, it wasn't actually what the monks wanted. I was becoming an expert in exercise science and fermentation science. I was learning more about baking bread, brewing beer. I built a gym in the monastery. I helped establish a sourdough baking culture in the monastery, a brewing culture, and I had learned mountain biking and the beauty of nature and hiking and things like this, and especially working with other people. I managed a group of 500 young men online for strength and leadership training and getting out of like purposelessness and meaningless activities and no willpower, and I had become a bit of a mentor, and they were training me to do that within the church, within the community, but I was expanding globally. I was talking with people all around the world that weren't involved with the monastery, but they needed help, and I was being restricted as I got more and more promotions. I was expected to restrict even more, and I was losing that side of me. And a good monk, according to them, stays with kind of the group mentality where they were conservative in nature and slow to change. And I was really enjoying this new person that I was, and I didn't understand why I had to also be a monk, and I had to get rid of this person that I was becoming, and I had to kind of close that off, and I was losing freedoms like that, and um, I had decided that I had kind of outgrown the group that trained me, and I later realized that the young guys that I had trained in that group of about 500 people, I wrote several manuals for them. That's where I started my writing career. Um, and I always used to tell them the final step in becoming an adult and a responsible man is to leave this group and go out and enjoy your newfound disciplines. And here I was preaching that in a microcosmic level within the monastery, and yet the theme of my life was mirrored in that I needed to, in fact, leave this group to become the man I was meant to be and not stay inside of it.
You wanted to go out into the world and help more people than rather stay with them and help them in their own culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a pretty brave thing to do. After 12 years, you're leaving the people that helped you to help others. It's
It was
amazing.
hard. It was hard, man. I cried like a baby. I once I came up with the realization, I was thinking about it. I realized it in my brew house. I was doing some work on wine, and I realized, so I'd gone through about 3 months of heavy depression, and I had gone through a few more months before that a spiritual experience called the dark night of the soul, where you detach from your identity and your ego, and you lose your ego, and then it comes back, and you realize that ego is everything except for who you really are, and you're this beautiful soul on this journey, and your name and your body and the clothes you wear is it's just a story that you use. as an identity, but it's not really you. And I had this amazing spiritual experience, and followed by some depression. And my guru, who knew about the experience, was happy about that, because that was the idea of spiritual evolution. But he was worried that the depression set in afterwards. And it's normal for the depression, he said, it's normal for it to happen first, and then the spiritual experience happens. But he said the following depression is not good. And he was concerned about that, because it was kind of a sign that I hadn't listened properly to my own inner instruction, which was that it was time to leave. And so I held on for a little bit longer, just to make sure. But once I realized I was going to leave, the depression faded. And immediately I was like, all right, I'm doing this. I'm going to be out in the world again. And this is going to be amazing. And that was simultaneously one of the best decisions I've ever made, but one of the most difficult. You know, Satyana, the monk that I trained with for about 5 or 6 years, he said he made two really good decisions in his life. The first decision was becoming a monk and staying in the monastery for as long as he did. The second decision was leaving.
Mm.
So it's this weird, it's like a paradox. You have to go in to the group in order to learn, but you have to leave the group in order to continue learning. And
Right.
it's like the child to the parent. The child must get trained in a good environment, but they must enter the world in order to face chaos. And it's the Jordan Peterson theory. I don't know if you're aware of Jordan Peterson.
I'm not.
He's a psychologist that studies and writes and teaches about chaos and order theory. And chaos and order theory is yin and yang. It is the balance of being both safe, but at the same time moving towards a possibly destructive reality.
Mm.
And that balance, molded together, harmoniously played out, is the essential balance everyone needs in their life to have a fulfilling life. If it's too comfortable, if it's too safe, not good. You don't learn. If it's too chaotic, too destructive, you die.
Right.
Somewhere in the middle is the purpose of our life.
You have to learn what the dangers are to learn how to overcome them. But if you don't know the dangers, you don't know how to overcome them.
You need the group. That's what the group does. The group says, ancient mythology has taught us this. And it doesn't have to be religious. It could be, we know that fire burns you. Okay. The group has to tell you that. We know that glass can break. We want that glass structure to kind of remain just like it is.
Right.
You take that information and you run with it. So you learn the principle behind life from the group, from mom, from dad, from family, from community, from university, from professor, from religion, from, it goes on and on and on. The group is in multiple stages. From Fallout, I'm sure you could learn gaming theory can teach you about life from that group, right?
Cover that up there. You don't see anything.
What
You
do you
don't see
have?
my tattoos either.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Oh yeah.
It all said Fallout.
They're all my hat says Fallout. All my tattoos are Fallout.
And I'm sure it's taught you a wealth of information.
Yeah, definitely. Just even though it's a video game, I was watching a video today, and this guy says that he enjoys video games because they're a form of art. They can kind of teach you different things, because the game that I play, Fallout, is a dystopian world. There was nukes and bombs, and what we're not supposed to do in the world is destroy the world. You have to take care of it. And since the world was destroyed, people are trying to come back together, and they're trying to rebuild everything to make sure it doesn't happen again. And you do learn from video games, even though most people just think that they're mindlessness. But everything can teach you a lesson, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so the group teaches you that fire can burn you. So then you go out into life and you learn how to manage fire. You figure out in your own way, with enough information from the group, you can stay partially safe. And then it's up to you, it's up to the individual to say, I wonder how big of a fire. I wonder if I can go in a little bit. I wonder if I can take a risk here, there. I wonder if this is the right person I'm supposed to be with. It. I know that these things can fall apart, but now that I know that, how far can I push it to where it works for me? And then I grow and expand and become a better person.
And even if you go out and try something maybe someone else in the group hasn't, and you succeed or you fail, they can learn from that as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, to fail without dying is essentially the goal.
That's pretty powerful. I like that. I have a few more questions for you. First off, if anybody was thinking of taking a very similar path to what you took, or thinking about maybe going in to be a monk, or just to learn about the culture that you were a part of, what are the first couple of steps that you would suggest to them?
Okay, yeah, a lot of young people have asked me about, having the same inclinations. And I actually talked about that with my very, very good brother, brother Monk, who is out in the world. He lives in San Francisco. I'm in San Jose. Um,
You're in San Jose?
yeah, yeah, I moved from Denver.
Oh, I didn't know
Oh,
that.
you didn't know that?
I did not. I'm gonna be in
Oh
San
man,
Jose next week.
really?
Yes, I will be. Maybe we can meet up for lunch or something.
Maybe. Well, what do
Okay,
you?
we will.
All right, let's talk about that off the air.
Yes. Okay,
Um,
moving on. What
yeah,
brought you to San
we
Jose?
moved from Denver like 4 months ago and come out to San Jose for several opportunities. Um, and so I'm near one of my brother monks out here, and I asked him this recently. I said, "What do you tell guys that want to do what we did?" And he says, "I don't recommend you go to a monastery." Now, I don't know if I agree with that. I would say it benefited me. I have a hard time telling people not to do that because it really changed my life. It was painful, it was challenging, but all good things are, and all permanent things are. And I would say at least learn other cultures, find out if there's places you can go internationally, go where you've never been, leave your small group, explore the world somehow. Um, you might want to go into an ashram instead of a monastery, but there are monasteries that may take you for a small period of time. But I wouldn't enter into, I see what he means by what he was saying. I wouldn't enter into a lifetime contract. I wouldn't sign a piece of paper that says I'm going to stay here for the rest of my life and learn from you. I wouldn't do that because that's what we did. And I left before I signed that piece of paper. That was the next thing they wanted me to do. And I said, I with all my heart, I can't sign that. I can't do it. And everyone was shocked because I had had this amazing career, essentially. Um, I would just explore other cultures, learn from another group, go to a few different groups, learn from different religions, different philosophers, become a more whole person. Because right now in your small world, this is the person that is needing to escape. In that world, it's claustrophobic. You've reached the outside of your box. It's time now to go to the outside the box and learn in it from another box, because that's all life really is. It's just a bunch of groups, and um, we're a tribal people. We try to attain a tribal connection immediately in the world. You go to a new place, first thing you look for is something familiar. Eventually, if you move to a new place, you look for your tribe that's there. um, Nowadays though, we can have global tribes. You can talk to someone on Fallout who lives in South Africa. uh,
Really?
you know so but if we still live where we live and we haven't explored, our body needs to go somewhere else. We need to take ourselves and learn more. That's what I would recommend that someone do. if someone wanted to learn what I learned about philosophy, psychology, meditation, and self mastery, well, reach if you could reach out to me, and I will use all my resources to try to help you as much as I can.
Yeah, shoot out all your links. You got to promote, man. Get all the promotion out there you can.
So you can definitely go to my website. It's just my name, RajanShankara.com. RajanShankara.com is where all of it's my hub of stuff. Um, I have a meditation academy, which you can find in resources from my website tab. I'm on Facebook a lot. Just Google me. You'll see my work. Um, my business card is basically Google.
Okay. Also, you have a new book coming out, is that right?
I do have a new book. It's called Everything Is Your Fault. It is going to be available, God willing. Hopefully, let's just say, I'm guessing my publisher is going to give me the Amazon link probably by August 17th. So
Okay.
probably in about 10 days, um, the planets are going to align in my favor, and a 2-year project will come to a little bit more of a close. Writing a book is the easy part. Getting your publisher to publish it is the hardest part.
Now, I remember we had talked about the Everything Is Your Fault when we were on our group trip. Do you want to go into that a little bit? Give a little bit of information into the book?
Sure. Can we take? I didn't bring my water. Can we take 5?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, and I'm gonna flip some dough real quick.
So we're back, picking up where we left off. You were going to discuss a little bit about your book, Everything Is Your Fault.
The premise of the book is twofold. It's autobiographical, and since I didn't want a book completely about me because I wouldn't be able to stand myself. I had to inject some teaching into it. So it's part autobiography, it's part teaching based with aphorisms of things that I learned in my journey. And I was inspired by the book because of a student of mine who had worked with me for about 8 months. For the first 8 months I was out, she lives here in San Jose, actually. Um, she said that I need to write a book after working with me. She said that for everyone who can't work with me face to face, that they need to hear some of the things that I teach people. So I had a shot. I started to write the autobiography, and I was disgusted with it. I was like, I hate writing about myself. This is getting, borderline narcissistic, and it was weird to kind of revisit all my life again. So I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, with my partner Helena, and she was gone for the day on business, and so we when she goes on a business trip, more times than not, I'll try to go with her so I can have like a vacation while she's working, and it's super fun. And she was working, and I went off for the day, and I ended up down this road. I got lost, and I basically tried to get lost and ended up at a little Japanese tea shop, and it was so cool, like perfect. I'm lost. I wanted to get lost, and out from nothing comes this little Japanese tea shop, and I'm like, great, I'll have tea here for the next 6 hours and just enjoy life. Book with me, and I was looking for a nice place to write. So I'm sitting there in this tea shop, and all of a sudden, all of these things start coming to my mind, and these teachings, and I wrote them all down, and I essentially wrote the outline of the new version of the book in that tea shop. And I had this insight that I'm going to publish a part autobiography, part teaching book, and I'm really quite happy with it. So after a bit of pages or sections about my life, it then breaks into a teaching based on a statement, and it's kind of the classical way that Eastern philosophy is taught. It's just with a saying, but I do the reader a favor, and after the saying, I then go into the explanation of what I'm talking about and how you can use that in your life. So the book, changing your life with responsibility, leadership, and meditation, and it breaks down in 3 sections: teachings about responsibility, making everything your fault, taking the blame for as much as you can, so that you I have to switch audio here, so that you can have the power to control your life. It gets people. It's trying to get people out of the blame mentality, and you essentially transfer power to the thing you blame. So you can change your life by making everything your fault. Leadership is a part where I explain to executives all the way to people who work for Amazon or whatever, that how to become a leader in your own circle and community, in different ways that even corporate executives can, with effectiveness. I studied that quite a bit in the monastery, and was promoted quite a bit because of the way I handled situations. So I try to teach that a little bit. And then there's a bit of about meditation in the end of the book, but not much. I think it's kind of a cliche topic, so I just touch on it a little bit. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I hope it helps one person.
I'm excited to get my copy. Send me
Yeah.
that Amazon link as soon as it's available.
I will. I definitely will. And if you have me back, we can go over the book together. I think that'd be fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Two more things I wanted to touch on. Something that we discussed off the air was you are going to be a father. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited. I'm ready. I'm ready to train the little monk, and I'm ready to not be ready.
You've learned a lot of lessons, but I'm sure you have a lot more to learn with the baby.
Oh man, it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be dangerous, and it's going to make me cry, I'm sure, at times.
Well, that's what a baby's supposed to do. It's not necessarily always tears of joy. Sometimes it's tears of frustration or whatever, but maybe you can write a book on learning to teach your baby through the monk ways.
You know, I think that's a good idea. Actually, what would you call it?
Oh
Training,
man,
baby.
it's not baby Einsteins. That's something different. So baby monk minds.
Baby monk, training, teaching your child meditation.
There you go. They'll get
Teaching
all they'll get all the awards in school for being the calmest.
teaching mindfulness to your child.
There you go. Copyright.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, so that's going to be another exciting chapter in your life. Also, can we discuss your new job?
Well, I don't have it yet. I don't have it at all, so I don't know. I
A new
haven't.
possible position.
So let's touch on it if it happens.
Okay, we can do
We'll
this.
come back to it.
Very exciting. I'll just say it's not an opportunity that I've seen come across, so I hope that you do get it.
The me too, the stress of waiting and going through the layers of I don't know what you'd even call them, levels of uh, uh, the trials and tribulations and the waiting of this possible career is has been immense.
It's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I blame myself.
It's all your fault.
Yeah.
Um, so was there anything else you wanted to shoot out there to help people kind of reach out to you, or was that about it with the Facebook
Oh,
thing and the Google?
well, anyone can email me whenever they want. I try to be as available as possible, even to the and frustration of Helena, my partner. But I'm all of my students. I try to know and get close to and know very well, and help guide. You know, when you're guiding people, I think when you're guiding people on their life, it's important to be there for them. So I'm painfully close to my email, and I respond quickly to all messages. And people can email me. My email is raj@rajanshankara.com. That is a public email. There's nothing private about it. Just fire away.
Awesome. Um, I think that was all I really had to discuss today. It was amazing having you here. I appreciate all the time and all the information that you've given us. And hopefully, some people out there can get to know you a little more personally and maybe kind of join you in your teachings.
Thank you. You're fantastic. And, that was a really fun conversation. I'm
Well,
sorry
thank
I
you.
talked so long.
Hey, I would have been more upset if you didn't talk at all. So thank you again, and this about wraps up the first episode. Thank you.
All right, sir. Talk soon.